you where I want you. You might use mute Andrea. Sorry, Andrea.
That's okay.
It sounds awful, doesn't it? I'm going to mute Andrea. Nicola's muted herself. Oh dear. Surprised somebody wants to mute me. Right, here we go. Right, so happy Friday. So we've got a lot to kind of whiz through today. I got a little bit excited right in the session because we all seem to be doing really well. Plus it's Friday, so here we go. I'm going to come down onto all fours. We're just going to do some wrist stretches here because we're going to be on our hands for quite a long time. Spread your fingers as wide as you can. So get your fingers wide as you bring the hands down, and then just rock forward and back over your wrists. Forward and back, as far as you can over without hurting yourself. And then come over the wrist and go side to side. So I'm keeping the elbows straight and I'm just shifting my body from side to side. And then we're going to go round in a circle. So I'm just taking my upper body round in a circle, keeping my hands planted. And then reverse your circle. And then come to rest. You're going to turn the fingers out and go side to side again there. So it just shifts the focus somewhat. Side to side. And then turning the fingertips back towards the knees. Be gentle with this one. The stretch comes on obviously when you rock backwards. And nice and gentle. And you might notice your fingers clawing, or your thumbs have kind of come in towards your fingers. See if you could spread your thumbs out again and notice what that does to the feeling. Try not to hunch through the shoulders. So take your shoulders away from your ears. So you've got a nice long neck. This tends to happen. Get really short because it's really hard. So a nice long neck. And then very, very gently turn the hands over. And you'll see I'm sitting back out of it. So I'm sitting back here so that I have total control over how much weight I want to put through my hands. And this is where this happens. So this is definitely where we get all sorts of weird stuff going on. So your body will hunch to try and avoid it. It will also do a bulldog impression. So your elbows are going, Andrea, I can see your bulldog impression. It's a good one. I like it. Can you straighten your elbows? The answer might be a resounding no. Yeah, so we tend to flare out to the side. It's kind of subtle sometimes, but can you straighten your elbows in that position? And if it's a no, that's okay. It is where it is. And then release and bring your clasp your fingers together. Make sure your palms are closed and you just rotate in the wrists. No snazzy. I'm just kind of doing a figure of 8 really. Just mobilizing the wrists. And then we're going to come straight down into our shoulder stretch, or let's call it a chest stretch because I'm going to do the shoulder stretch next. So come down into a chest stretch. So one arm straight out to the side. Remember to pick up the front of the shoulder from the mat. Try and keep it lifted. Rotate over as far as you can. Nice and gentle first thing this morning. Oh, there's a moon out. Oh. Knee pointing up to the ceiling. Random comments. And then rotate back and switch sides. So we're going to let it flow. Try and keep the front of the shoulder off the mat. Rotating the body and switching sides. 2, 3 each side. You're nice and gentle, all under control, as best you can, keeping the front of the shoulder off the mat. Couple more, 1 each side, if you're roughly in time with me. Back through center, and then coming up into the back of the shoulders. So there's a whole lot of stretching going on with this one, but we've been doing it for most of the week. One arm goes out at number 12, the other slides through the hole. You walk the top hand round overhead, and you twist your top armpit up towards the sky, stretching the back of the shoulder, rotation, stretching the lat on the top side, breathe, and then release slowly come out of that, switching sides. So opposite arm, out overhead, thread the needle, go through the hole, walk the top hand round, breathe and twist a little bit more. And release. And then while we're here, coming to kneeling, coming into the hips flexor and quad stretch, take the hands behind, fingers point out to the side or behind, whichever makes sense. And then lift the hips up, lift the chest up and lower. Lift the hips, lift the chest and lower. Keep moving through it, lifting and lowering the hips. And last one. And coming forward, again, the same as we were doing the other day to get to the front of the ankle, lifting one knee and then the other. So the further back you sit, I kind of like the stretch when I kind of lean back a little bit. It takes it sort of further down towards my ankle and foot. And then when I'm a bit more upright, it feels slightly different. But play with the angles if you like. It's probably benefit to both. But there is benefit to both. And then slowly release out of that. So we've been playing with this idea of where we can get to from this knee hover. Yeah, we've been playing with that quite a lot. I'm just going to take my jacket off. So we're going to use that to get to other places. It's really, really useful. So I call it a 4-point plank when I'm kind of practicing, but in sort of animal flow tradition, it's called the beast. And so when we start off learning it, we're in a proper all fours position. When you want to add on, sometimes just because of the way our thighs and arms are different lengths, it can sometimes be useful to go a little bit further out with the hands. So I'm a little bit longer with the hands, yeah? And you'll work it out with your own dimensions as we move through it. So from there, I'm going to same thing, I'm going to hover the knees, simple, simple, and then we're doing the same thing, we're loading the spring, and take your butt right back to your heels. I'm going to sink the chest down towards the floor. So it's a child's pose, essentially. Knees are a little bit wider than the hips, but you've got the knee hover. And then we bring it back forward, all the way forward to straighten legs. Now, this is where you kind of think, this is where I need my hands a little bit further forward. You'll notice that my shoulders are in front of my wrists, but you don't want to feel like you've kind of gone, and face planted. So if you need to alter your hands, that's fine. And then take it back to that knee hover and the stretch. So we're just making it bigger. We've already done this. We're just making it a little bit bigger. So you're coming through that knee hover all the way forward. If you can straighten the legs, great. If they're a little bit bent, that's okay. Or just sort your hands out and then sink it back. I'm going to do one more like that, coming all the way through that 4-point bridge and into a plank. And then all the way back to the knee hover, or your butt to your heels and your knees slightly wider than hip distance. And then just plant the knees there. So that you're back in essentially a child's pose, but just plant the knees. So a teeny tiny break. And then come back. So I'm kneeling, hands are slightly in front of shoulders. And we'll take it into a stretch this time up for the hamstrings. So same thing, we're going to hover the knees, take the hips back. So you've got your stretch. Then we're going to straighten the legs here, take your butt up to the sky. So butt to the sky, it looks like a down dog, but while we're here, you're going to pedal the feet. So you're going to stretch each calf one at a time, bending and straightening one knee. Keep pushing the floor away with the hands, so you're not just sinking into the shoulders. Pedal the feet. Lift the heels again, And then same thing, you're going to come back to that stretch position. So butt to heels, knee hover, back to the 4-point bridge, and then lower. Yeah. So we'll go through that again. Same thing. Like I say, we've been here before, we're just adding on slightly, making it a bit more flowy. So knee hover, come back to your stretch position, lift your butt to the sky, pedal the feet, stretching one calf after the other. Pause with the feet, lift the heels, sink the knees, sink your bottom down towards your heels, and then bring it forward to your 4-point bridge, and then lower the knees. Okay, so we're going to add those two together. So lots of planks in this one. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Same thing, knee hover, butt back to heels for the stretch, butt to the sky this time, and then lower the hips, shifting your chest forward into a plank. Lift the hips, bend the knees, bringing your butt back to your heels, back into the stretch, and then pressing forward out into a plank. So just combining the two. That's it. Back to your stretch position, so taking butt to heels, lift butt to sky, lower the hips out into a plank, lift the hips up to the sky, bend the knees, butt to heels, come forward, all the way forward into your plank. Back to the stretch position, we're just working through it, butt to the sky, hips lower to plank, hips lift to the sky, butt to heels, forward to plank, back to the knee hover, and then lower the knees, and then rest. And you can wiggle your wrists if you need to. Wiggle the wrists. So just to take us off as wrists for a moment, I'm going to come up into your 90-90 lunge position. From there, however you need to get up to standing. So you've got your lunge position set up. I like prayer hands this because we're going to add in some rotations. So prayer hands to me, because what I do is I press my thumbs against my chest so that when I rotate, I know I'm rotating from the breastbone and not just my shoulders. So I keep everything in line. So we're going to lunge down, wherever we get to is fine, and then rotate through the chest. You're obviously going in the direction of the bent leg. I say obviously. Back to center and then back up. Yeah, so not rocket science, but we're going to make it flow a little bit. So as you lunge, you're going to twist. So I'm lunging and twisting, and then untwisting as I come back up. So what you need to watch for as you do that is your front knee is going to want to curve across. So keep pressing the front knee out. Don't let it curve across. So it's almost like you're loading the spring on the way down and unloading the spring on the way back up. Loading the spring on the way down, unloading on the way back up. Don't let your legs get involved. Make sure they're tracking and it's only your upper body that's rotating. 2 more. And on this next one, at the bottom, hold, untwist. So you're down at the bottom, plant the back knee, and then we'll switch sides. So find your 90-90 position, get organized, then come up to standing. If you need to reorganize a little bit, that's fine, like me. Thumbs against the breastbone, lunge down, rotate, untwist, and come back up. And then if you feel confident with that and your balance is okay, as you go down, rotate, don't let the knee curve. And as you come back up, unrotate. Rotate down and rotate. Let's go with twist. Twist on the way down, untwist on the way back up. Keep thinking about that front knee, don't let it cave inwards. Last couple. And last one. And on this next one, as you come down, hold, untwist, plant the back knee, and then coming down onto your bottom. So we were working with this one yesterday. It was the hip lift. So we're going to play with it from here. So you want your back hand slightly away from your body, so it's not quite under my shoulder, so that when I do come up, it is under my shoulder. Yeah. If it's too close to you, when you come up, you won't be able to move. So I'd say that's about, I don't know, 12 to 14 inches, something like that, because I think probably the pair of you about my size. So the other hand is right in front of it's right in the middle. Yeah, you can wave at me if you wish. It's right in the middle. So as we lift the hips, we're going to come to this tabletop position, if you like. So we want to try and get as much height through the hips as possible. So eventually, once this lot all gives a little bit, you're one long line. Now, as you can see, because you're on one hand, your body's kind of rotating. That's why we've done a lot of rotations so far. So I want you to rotate the chest so that you're looking down at your hand. So you're trying to keep both feet planted, trying to lift the hips, rotating, looking down at the opposite hand. It's a variation on a plank, that's all it is. It's called a crab. And then lower the hips back down. And we go again on the other side. So same thing, hands in line with the leg on the same side. In other words, it's not in the center, but this hand is, and we're going to do something with this in a little bit. But for now, push the floor away, lift the chest, lift the hips, and then looking down, twisting the chest as far as you can. Feet planted, make sure you can feel all the toes on the floor. And then slowly release, bringing the hips back down. Switching sides. So let's add in with this top hand, all right? So same thing, lift the hips. We get organized through the chest first. So you're twisting and looking down at the bottom hand. And then if you can, turn your arm bone out. So I'm rotating my arm bone, so my elbow pit points away. Yeah, so it means that you're not caving into your shoulder. So you're holding there, and then this top hand is going to come overhead. And it's almost like I'm trying to get my upper arm on my ear. So I'm reaching then, my armpit up to the sky, my hips up to the sky, looking down at my hand. Breathe in. And then slowly release. Everything comes back down, land softly, and we switch sides. It's a big stretch, a lot of rotation, but it's great for the glutes and the hip flexors. So that's why we're doing it. Okay, same on the other side. Slight waffle to give you a break. Here we go. Lift the hips. Find that tabletop position. See if you can lift those hips a little bit higher. Twisting the chest, looking down at the hand. If you can, rotate the arm bone. Pause in there. And then the top hand is in line with the bottom hand as it finishes. Upper arm next to the ear. Push the forward, see if you can lift that a little bit higher. Breathe and hold. And then slowly lower everything back down to the mat. Breathe a sigh of relief. Turning back over. Right, I'm just working out how best to teach this. So we've been playing with push-ups. This is kind of a weird no elbow bend push-up. You'll see what I mean when we get there. So we've been playing with these mountain climbers, bringing the knee forward. This time the knee's going to come to the elbow, but hopefully we can bring it a little bit beyond. So it's going to come outside the elbow. In fact, actually, we could practice this here before we get into a plank. So bring the right knee to right elbow, then bring it outside the elbow. So I've brought it just that little bit further forward. And then the knee is going to slide down, but it's staying. So my leg's still off the floor, but my knee is slid down to the wrist, then back up, and then back to where it started. Now, if you say should, you might probably feel it in your obliques here as you come down. So it comes forward, all the way forward, lowers, lifts, and then comes back. And try it on the other side. So elbow, knee, or knee to elbow, sorry, past that knee, past that elbow, get my joints right, lower down to the wrist, lift it back up, and then take it back. And I'm hoping you can feel how tricky that is, even just in all fours, right? So let's all worry about what that's going to feel like now in a plank. Here we go. It's Friday, right? We've got to do this stuff. But you two don't know me, do you? You see, there are people that come on this that know me quite well and know how sadistic I am. So here we go. Back free plank. Straighten one leg, straighten the other. So you've got a solid plank. Bring right knee outside right elbow. So you've got to come forward into it, yeah? Lower that knee down to the floor, just above the floor, wrist. Lift it back up, take it out. Same on the other side. Left knee, left elbow. It lowers, it would lift, and then take it back out. One more each side. Elbow, wrist, elbow, return. One more. Elbow, wrist, elbow, return. One knee bends, and you're allowed to come back off your wrists and give them a twirl. Is anybody else panting, or is it just me? I can't hear. Good. I'm glad it's not just me. I'd like to be able to hear you lot breathing, so I know it isn't just me going into the mic. Right, coming up. Again, moment of getting off the wrists. So we've been playing again with this concept of a squat into a heel lift for it then to become a jump in action. Yeah. So practicing landing mechanics really for running, and eventually we're getting to hopping. But it feels right when you're doing it like this. It feels right to squat and then for the arms to do this as you come up. But if you were jumping, it would be the reverse. You would do that. Yeah. So we're going to have to practice the arms as well. So as per, wide through the legs. So we're going to load the spring, squatting down, and take the arms like a ski jump position, really. Then as you come up, the arms lift. So squat down, arms back, come up, arms lift. So we add in the heel raise, so it makes sense now. Arms down, arms up, heels up, arms down, arms up, heels up. You can make that a little bit more intentional, so I'm kind of doing it a bit slower there. So you load the spring on the way down, release the spring on the way back up. Load it, release it. So we've got a little bit more explosion through it now. Load the hips, release it. Load, release. Load, release. So if you were jumping, you wouldn't be spending an awful lot of time at the bottom of this squat. You'd get there and then you'd release it. Otherwise you lose all that stored energy. So keeping it going, squat, release, squat, release, squat, release. More. That's it. Nice. And last one. And then coming back down to your mat for a moment. Ah, dear. What have we got time for? Let's see. Let's do it. You know how we've been playing with the crawling? We're crawling in reverse now. But so it starts to get a little bit more tricky in this position. So it's just our crab position. We've just been playing with this here. It's the same position, but this time both hands are going to come down behind, fingers pointing backwards. And you're just going to lift the hips off the floor. Now, the way the hips come off the floor is not by lifting the hips. The way the hips come off the floor is by pushing down into your hands. So you can see what that does to my shoulders I'm actively pushing down. My shoulders come down, so I'm engaging my lats essentially. Massive muscle all down the back. Yeah, so you want to keep those engaged as best you can, she says. And when you crawl here, it's the same thing. Opposite hand, opposite leg. So even just practicing opposite hand, opposite leg here, before we even move. And the trick with it is, because now we're taking one hand away, the other shoulder is going to want to collapse desperately. So you're having to really focus on pushing the floor away with the hand. Opposite hand, opposite leg. So I'm not lifting my hand and my leg, and not lifting particularly high. Just need to get them off the floor. And then have a play. See if you can walk backwards. So opposite hand, opposite leg. Opposite hand, opposite leg. And then when you get wherever you get to, try forwards. And then try backwards again. Small steps so that you don't finish up with your arms and your legs too far apart from each other. Finish up kind of like this, because your legs are different lengths to your body and your arms, obviously. Walking backwards. So just crawling patterns. Come back to the middle of your mat and sink the hips down, and then come over onto your side for the usual pretzel stretch. Same thing, top leg up, hang on to it, bottom ankle, hang on to it. Pull that leg behind you as best you can so you find that quad and hip flexor stretch. And then opening out. And then, like I said yesterday, trying to control the breath, slow the breath, and let gravity and the breath do the work. No force. Gently release, don't like the foot twang, switching sides. Knee up, ankle, take the knee behind you. Big breath up now. Breathe and relax into it as best you can. Big stretch. Slowly release. Just coming up into toes together, knees apart. So it's a variation on the child's pose, I suppose. Sinking the armpits down to the ground. Sinking your butt back towards your heels. We're not doing anything fancy here. It literally is just a moment of relaxation, because we've done quite a lot in that session. So just breathe. And release. And we're done. Or you could stay there. Kind of get the idea that you don't like to stay there quite long. If anybody's got time, either of you got time, unmute yourself and just let me know how you got on. I'll stop the video, I'll stop the recording so nobody else has to hear this. But if either of you've got time,